Welcome back to the 5280 pitch, women's soccer at altitude. Man, it's just been a fun week, and we have a lot to talk about. Women are playing right now at the Coachella Invitational, so we're going to dive into that in next week's episode because I want to have more than just one game to analyze for our podcast. And so today, we're going to be looking at the back line, the defense. And I mean, if you're building an expansion team, the Denver Summit are doing just that. This is where you start, right? And we've actually seen with Allie Brazier that the very first signing that the Denver Summit had, we started with a bang by signing Allie. And I had the pleasure of joining NWSL United podcast last week to talk all about the Denver Summit. And Allie Brazier, Allie Watt, came from Orlando. And one of the hosts on that podcast is a huge Orlando fan. So he was talking a lot about what a gem we have with Allie. And that was our very first signing. It's great that we have someone that can score, but you need to have a strong defense to really establish a presence. And you need veterans back there who have actually been through this before, because here's the thing about year one for an expansion club. Your attack, it's going to take time. Chemistry doesn't happen overnight, but your defense, you can have a really solid defense right away if you've got the right people. And Denver went out and got veterans, championship winners, players who have actually won stuff in this league. So we're going to break down the back line player by player and talk about what we've got back there. So let's start with Kaleigh Kurtz, because honestly, she's probably the most important signing of this back line. At 31 years old, a 3-year deal through 2028, she's going to be here for a long time. And when I tell you that this woman is durable, I mean it. She was an ironwoman for 4 straight years with NC Courage. And that means that she played every single minute, like every minute, every game for 4 straight years. Last year alone, so in 2025, she played 26 matches, started every single one of them, 2,340 minutes. That's every single minute of the season. Not one substitution, not one game off, no injuries. She just plays. Now, her offensive numbers aren't huge. She's had 1 goal in 2025, 0 assists, but that's not what she's here for, She's a center back. Her job is to defend, to organize, to make sure nobody gets behind her. And she's won everything. She is a 2-time NWSL champion. She's won the Shield twice, Challenge Cup twice. She was first team best 11 in 2024. This is someone who knows what winning looks like in this league. Kurt Johnson, so the GM of the Denver Summit, worked with her for 8 years when they both were at NC Courage. So he knows exactly what he's getting with Kaleigh. This isn't a gamble. This is, I know this player inside and out, and I want her anchoring my expansion defense. Kurtz is going to start. She's going to play 90 minutes every game unless she's injured. But I mean, if she gets injured, that'd be a shock. She hasn't been injured for 4 years. Watch, I need to find some wood, knock on wood. And she's going to be a leader back there. So write her name in Sharpie on the lineup card. She's going to be back there and she's a staple. Up next is Carson Pickett. And I've already done a deep dive into Carson Pickett. If you haven't checked out that episode, head on back after this episode. I did an entire deep dive just on Pickett alone. She's 32 years old. She signed a 2-year contract, and this signing is really interesting because Pickett isn't just a defender. She is an attacking threat. Last year with the Orlando Pride, she played 22 matches, 14 starts, and about 1,280 minutes. And in that time, she scored 3 goals, 2 assists. So that's 5 goal contributions from a fullback. Most fullbacks don't score 3 goals in a season. Pickett did it in just 14 starts. So her offensive numbers are genuinely impressive for her position. She's been selected to the NWSL Best 11 twice. She's played for the U.S. Women's National Team, and Denver's her 6th team in the league, which means that she has seen a little bit of everything. Every style of play, every type of opponent. What she brings is creativity going forward. She overlaps with wingers. She delivers crosses, she can cut inside, and she can shoot. When she's on the field, the attack becomes more dynamic. She plays more of an attacking defender. So she's going to be able to move the ball, but still be able to come back and keep that back line strong and solid. But she's 32, so Nick Cushing's going to have to manage her minutes carefully. You can't run her into the ground. She's going to, in the right matches, especially at home where we want to push numbers forward, she could be a huge factor into his playbook and into his strategy. And as someone who was a great ambassador for the Orlando Pride, she is going to bring the same professionalism here to the Denver Summit. Veteran voice in the locker room, someone the younger players can learn from. We also have Janine Sonis, and she's 31 years old, signed through 2028, and this is someone who's special because she's from Highlands Ranch. So we got another Colorado gal on the team. We have 5 players on the Denver Summit who are from Colorado. That's really cool, and it just goes to show you how special our youth soccer program is here in Colorado. So Sonis has won an Olympic gold and bronze with Team Canada. She won an NWSL championship with Portland in 2022, and she was captain at Racing Louisville. She is a leader. She played for Cushing at Manchester City, so they already have that relationship. Denver traded for her. They paid Louisville $120,000 in transfer funds with incentives up to another $40,000. That is real money for an expansion team to spend on a defender. And that tells you how much the Summit wanted her, how much Cushing wanted her. And here's a fun detail that I love. She started the players' WhatsApp group chat. So before anyone had even trained together, she was already focused on building out that team chemistry. That is a true leader right there. She's been a captain before. She can play left or right fullback, very defensively solid, international experience, championship winner from Colorado. I think having someone who's grew up in Colorado, made it to the top of the sport, and chose to come back home and play for an expansion team, that is a statement to the community, to the young players watching, everyone. So if you notice, we have players 31, 32 in that back line. We finally have someone in their 20s. Like I say this like they're all so old. Who am I? But we have a 20-year-old back there, Megan Reid. She's 29, 3-year deal through 2028, another Canadian international. Reid spent 4 years with Angel City. She made 81 appearances over those 4 years, so she is another durable player. She's been available whenever she's been needed. Now, 2025 was a little different for her. 18 matches, but only 9 of those were starts. Less than 1,000 minutes, no goals, no assists. She was more of a rotational player last year, but for Denver, that's actually fine. We don't need Megan Reid to be a superstar. We need her to be solid depth. Someone who can step in when Kurtz needs a rest or when Pickett needs, when Pickett's being managed. Someone who can maintain the level. If you listen to last week's episode, I talked about the crazy August that we have with 3 days off of rest and back-to-backs and travel days. She could be coming in on those depth days. Reid made the Canadian national team at the 2024 Women's Gold Cup and has been with the Canadian team ever since. So very recent international experience. She knows what high-level competition looks like. And when you're playing 6 matches in 28 days like we will be in August, having someone like Reid who can come in and not drop the standard that has been set, and we don't need to really change the strategy in the playbook too much, that is extremely valuable. So we've talked a lot of players that have U.S. women's national team, Canadian national team, captains of past teams. Up next, we have a player who's on a bit of a prove-it deal. Cameron Biegalski is on a one-year deal with a mutual option for 2027. So that contract structure tells you that this is a prove-it deal for her. Show us what you've got, and we'll talk about extending the contract. In 2019, she was the Big Ten Defender of the Year at Wisconsin. She won an NWSL championship with the Washington Spirit in 2021. So the talent is there. The pedigree is there. But last year, with the Chicago Stars, she played 20 matches, 16 starts. It's all looking good, right? 1,500 minutes, 1 goal, 1 assist. Productive, but not a locked-in starter all season. And that's been the challenge for her. She's been in the league for 4 years now, and she hasn't quite cemented herself as a guaranteed starter anywhere. She's had good stretches and then found herself back on the bench. So this is her opportunity. Expansion team, fresh start, new coaching staff. If she can come in and perform consistently, there is playing time available. Plus, she's versatile. She can play center back, she can play fullback, and that's very important to have that sort of flexibility when you're managing a roster over a long season. And this is her moment. If she's going to break through and become a consistent NWSL starter in Denver, this is where it could happen. Now we're going to start talking about some of the youngins. And the first one is Ayo Oke, 22 years old. We got her for a 3-year contract through 2028. And this is really exciting because she left UCLA in 2024 and went to play in Mexico's Liga. She made 31 appearances and helped them win the 2025 Clausura and finished second in the Apertura. So she's already got professional experience and some hardware. She's played every youth level for the U.S. women's national team. And just recently, like last month, she got called up to the senior team January camp. First senior call up. That's a huge deal. She's 5'3", not the biggest defender, but I mean, hey, us shorties, we can still hold our own. But she's a right back with pace and technical ability. And she's only 22. She's already getting some call-ups on the national team. If we can sign her, we signed her for 3 years, we can develop her. We might have gotten her at a steal of a deal. The question with Ayo is, can she handle the NWSL right away? She sure looked good in the U.S. women's national team game, but is this going to be a development year where she learns behind some of the veterans like Pickett and Sonis? Denver gave her that 3-year deal, which tells you they are thinking long-term with her. They're not expecting her to be perfect in year 1, but she could come in and there could be position battles right from the get-go. There's a lot of fun things to watch for Ayo and this defensive line. One thing about Ayo is that she adapts extremely quickly. If she can defend NWSL speed and the physicality, she might push for minutes earlier than people expect. And with the national team watching, every good performance matters for Ayo Oke. The next signing that we're going to talk about comes from Paris Saint-Germain, and it's Eva Gato. She's 23 years old, and she's signed through 2028. And this signing took until late January to get done, but it is a big one. She played for Paris Saint-Germain for 2.5 years. She was there for when they won the Coupe de France in 2024. She has that European championship experience. Before that, she was a dominant player at Notre Dame. She started 75 of 76 possible matches, won ACC Defensive Player of the Year twice, her junior and senior year, first team All-American both years. She is a center back, and she's been capped twice by the U.S. women's national team. So she's played international soccer. She's seen high level of competition. The biggest question for her is the adjustment. She's been in France, which has a different style than NWSL. It's a different pace. Can she come in to the NWSL and immediately partner with Kurtz at center back? Or does she need time? At 23, she's young but experienced. She's already played pro soccer at a high level in Europe, and Denver gave her a nice long contract, so they clearly see her as a foundational player. If the Kurtz-Gato partnership works out right away, Denver could have one of the better center back pairings in the league. Veteran next to a young athletic talent, that is exactly what you want. And last but not least, we have Natalie Means from Georgetown, 23 years old, 2-year deal with the option in 2027. And this one is interesting because Denver lists her as a defender, but at Georgetown, she scored 10 goals and had 6 assists as a defender. And that's not normal. So the question is, where does Nick Cushing actually use her? Is she a fullback who gets forward? Is she a wing in a back three? Is she actually more of a midfielder despite being listed as a defender? She started all 23 games at Georgetown, won a bunch of Big East awards. She's extremely productive, but the jump from college to NWSL is huge. As a rookie, she is going to have to earn her minutes. There are a lot of veterans on this team who she can learn a lot from. If she can show her versatility, if she can play multiple positions, there is a strong path for Natalie Means on this team. And having a defender who can score goals, that is a weapon that you can use in specific matchups, set pieces, late game situations where you need a goal. So let's zoom out and talk about what this back line actually tells us about Denver's approach. First thing, veteran leadership. Kurtz, Pickett, Sonis, Reid, these ladies have won stuff. They've been in playoff games. They've defended in high-pressure moments. They know what it takes. For an expansion team, that is so important because when things get hard, and they will, you need players who don't panic, who have been there before. Second, the international experience. Sonis and Reid with Canada, Pickett, Gaetino, and Oke with U.S. Women's National Team, these players have competed at the absolute highest level. So when they're facing top NWSL attackers, they are not intimidated. They've defended against world-class players. And last but not least, depth. Pickett, Sonis, Begalski, all of them can play multiple positions. Oke and Means, they bring a ton of flexibility. You have options. And when you're playing 6 matches in 28 days, like in August, depth is not a luxury. It is a necessity. You can't run the same back four every single game. And the mix of ages is something I want us all to pay attention to because we got some players that are in their early 30s, and then we have some players that are in their early 20s. That is the balance that you want to have. Veterans who can lead now and young players who can develop and become your core for years 2, 3, and 4. And here's the thing about expansion teams in year 1. Your attack usually takes time. Chemistry is not going to happen overnight. But defense, you have to have a really good defense immediately. You can have a really good defense immediately if you have the right veterans. And your defense will keep you in games. And I think Denver does. I think this back line is built to keep games close. And that is exactly what you want to ask of your team when you're first starting out, when you're an expansion team, to grind out results, to make teams uncomfortable when they're tired in the 70th minute, especially here at altitude. So that's the back line. 8 defenders, veterans who have won championships, young players with huge potential, international experience everywhere you look. If Denver's going to compete this year, it starts here at the back line. And that's why I started with talking about the back line, because I think that it's extremely important for us to know why the Denver Summit built the team the way that they did. With Kurtz organizing everything, with Pickett creating from wide, with Sonis bringing in that championship mentality, with the young players developing, pushing them and pushing these veterans for their spots, this isn't a back line that's going to score a ton of goals. They're not going to have highlight reel attacking plays every week, but they're going to be organized, they're going to be disciplined, and they're going to make teams earn everything. And honestly, that is how expansion teams succeed. You build from the back, you make yourself hard to beat, you keep games close, and then over time, the attack comes together. Denver has all the pieces. Now we see if it actually works. Next week, we are going to be talking about what we saw at the Coachella Invitational. It should be a lot of fun to see what these girls have put together, what we can expect to see, because we are just a few short weeks away from the opening match against Bay FC. Thank you so much for hanging with me on the 5280 pitch. Make sure you're subscribed. Follow me on social media at the 5280 pitch. If you are not on the newsletter yet, head over to 5280pitch.com, sign up, and be sure to check out the merch. We have lots of great merch now available for purchase on the website. You can wear it to your favorite matches. And like I said, next time we're going to be talking about the Coachella Invitational. We will dive into the midfield and we'll be diving into the forward group as well. But until then, let's keep building this foundation together. We'll see you next time on the 5280 pitch, women's soccer at altitude.